Welcome to my messy studio, everyone. My name is Mark, and I'm an artist and an art professor. And in this video, I'm going to share with you a short excerpt from my online workshop titled The Fundamentals of Crosshatching, the 6 Basic Strokes. In this fast-paced, information-packed class intended for the beginning student, I will give you everything you need to know to get started in this challenging yet rewarding drawing method. I'm going to give you art material recommendations, cover the 6 basic strokes used by the masters, explain 5 simple rules to follow to hatch effectively, and then demonstrate various cross-hatching methods. And then, at the end of the workshop, I'm going to put it all together and demonstrate how to do a drawing of these deceptively simple forms. This workshop should be an excellent launching point for those of you who wish to use cross-hatching for figure drawing, illustration work, landscape, and urban sketching, or just for your doodling activities. For more information and to register, please check out my website, the link to which I'll leave below. Please enjoy the excerpt and see you at an upcoming workshop. Bye for now. So, without further ado, without delaying further, let's talk about the 6 different strokes. The first one, and probably the most common, the one you're going to rely on more, your bread and butter, your meat and potatoes, is what I call the soft stroke. Soft stroke is a stroke that starts thin, fattens in the center, and then fades out. So it looks like this. That is, number one, the soft stroke. How do we get a stroke that's thin, thickens, and thins out again? By putting a line down on the move. By putting a line down on the move, meaning that, this is hard to see, but I'm starting the stroke with my hand already moving. So I start moving, I put down the stroke, and I end it moving, like this. And sometimes it helps, before I even start the stroke, to start moving the pen. So I let it hover over my drawing surface. I don't know if you guys have done in drawing classes, they tell you, okay, before you draw a sphere, sometimes it helps to do a blind run. So you kind of go, the sphere is going to look like this, and okay, there's your sphere, right? Kind of the same thing here, right? So we start on the move, and we end on the move. It's called the soft stroke because it creates hatch marks with soft transitions, soft edges. In observational drawing, and even if you're cartooning, whatever it is, whatever your style is, having soft transitions at the ends of the hatch is really important. So when we're putting down any kind of hatching technique, cross contour, cross hatching, parallel hatching, having soft edges around the hatch, really important. That is the soft stroke. It takes a little bit of practice. Softer paper helps a lot. When we're talking about harder paper having either on or off, right? Whereas, so there's some harder paper. I should still be able to do it. Let's see. Okay. I should do it. But the edges here are a little bit softer. Easier to do on softer paper. That's the first stroke. The second one, let's put it over here. I call the hard stroke. And it's a line that looks like this. These are lines that start thick and thick, almost consistent in thickness all the way through. Right? That stroke is created by putting your pen down on the paper, making a line, stopping, lifting off. So there's no run in
into it, right? There's no stroke at the beginning, right? So it looks like this. Those are also necessary because often, especially when you're rendering rectilinear objects, cubes, anything with sharp edges where the value transition has to be abrupt, we need to make sure that the hatching ends exactly at a full stop, right? As opposed to fading in and out. That's the hard stroke, right? This one, I think, for me, actually is harder than the soft stroke in some ways, right? You can see that sometimes with a hard stroke, that abrupt stop creates a little, let's see how detail-oriented this stuff is, right? That creates these little dots, right? You want to avoid them as much as possible. Okay. And then we have some hybrid strokes that are kind of half and half. So sometimes you want a stroke to start sharp and end up soft, or start soft and end up hard. So we have hard to soft strokes that look like this. Plenty of situations where that needs to happen, particularly in shadows. One of the properties of cast shadows is that they start with sharper edges and they tend to diffuse as they move away from the casting object. The hard to soft patch is very valuable for that. And obviously the reverse. So you're going to start on the move. Or round objects, and these are the trickiest. These are the trickiest. You want to select a curve. And stay with that same curve all the way through the hatch. Right? It could run at different angles. But you're never going to have a straight line. Never going to have a straight line on a round object. Yes, okay for cylinders, okay for cones. For spheres, pick a curve, stay with that curve. Because anything, again, it's a question of kind of setting up a certain expectation. Next layer, next layer I put down needs to be at a different angle, but the same curve. I've set up an expectation that the curve is going to run like this. If I start creating a stroke that's suddenly curvier, I've just created a bump. If I start running a hatch that runs straighter, then I've just created a flattening. So spheres are very tricky, right? The angles, the curves need to constantly be changing, but so long as you maintain consistency in the curvature of your stroke, we're going to be okay. Okay. This is now the shadow side. So here I'm going to put down a second hatch. I'm going to go darker, however. Right, so here the transition needs to be very light, very delicate. I'm using my soft hatch. Here, because we're in shadow, that layer is going to be a little bit darker. It's going to be a little bit darker. I'm going to try to connect my C hatching together. Okay, so this now starts looking a little more like a shadow. And then I'm going to do one more. Following the same curve. Okay, so that's the first layer on the sphere. It doesn't have to be this angle. It doesn't have to be this angle. For me, my kind of starting point, the first layer I put down usually runs roughly 45 degrees. It's this, right? And the next layer might shift this way or this way, but I always start off with the easiest angle for me. Why? Because it's those initial 2, 3 angles that are the most difficult. That have to be the cleanest, right? Where things are in a single layer or in a double layer, the hatching has to be consistent. Once you start building up layers, right, the layer 4 could be less clean. Doesn't have to be as perfect, right? The degree of precision in layer 4, layer 5 doesn't have to be as great. So for me, because 45 is the easiest angle, that's what I start with, approximately, right? Okay, so in this case, we have top facing angles, horizontal hatch. Notice that here, the edges are a little bit sharper. So as opposed to using soft strokes, we're going to use harder strokes. So those strokes are going to be horizontal and they're going to have harder edges, at least here. And they need to end abruptly as well, right? They need to run right up against the edge of the cube. Okay, so let's do the diagonal here as well. Though, where's my eraser? Again, running this way for me is easier. So I'm going to run angles going this way first, probably, as opposed to going this way. Whatever's easiest for you, right? But angles should run roughly this way. Here, there's going to be a hard to soft hatch, right? It needs to be abrupt here. And then because this layer hatching needs to transition into the next layer, it needs to be softer on the other side. Okay, that's layer 1 on the cube. Horizontal hatching on the cast shadow. And here we're going hard to soft.